And try to either mute yourself or mute quickly if there's any background noise.
I like that. So
Just mute all.
hold on just a second. I gotta do this and shift this forward. That's what I did. There we go. I forgot I had shifted it back so I could get to the other one. So I could send myself the link for the here, I gotta do something over here though real quick. Got this in the middle of my picture. Alrighty. So this is one of the patterns. It doesn't here. Let me show you the one that you guys have in yours, where it has the big A and B and C on it. So I redid it, and I'll get it out there, but I redid it with it just the plain ones in case people want to do it with that. So you can just cut out the basket pattern if you want. You can also put double stick on the back and then cut out your pattern. Totally up to you which way you want to do it. I suggest like a paintbrush or something. Once you cut it out, to curve your pattern and just kind of run it around it to get it going in a nice curve. And then if you are going to glue it rather than the other one, you'll just get yourself some glue. The advantage of if you do the double stick on it is you then have that double stick for the next part when you do the paper on it. I think I'd get a new bottle of glue so I wasn't always dealing with the same half-empty bottle of glue when I'm doing these demos. Right? Then I recommend tweezers, because even though you've curved it so it'll help you curve it around, tweezers will help you hold it and stick it in place. Now I see about a 1/16 of an inch. If it's more like an 1/8, it'll still be just fine. It's just to give you some idea, you know, so that you have a good sized basket. So just hold it with the tweezers just for a little bit, and there you go. And set that one down and pick up the dry one. So you have a nice dry one. You guys can look at it and see it. So wider at the top, narrower at the bottom. So now you can do the bottom a couple different ways. You can, let me go back to our B again. So you can see with the B, it's the circle. So you can actually put some glue on the bottom of your little basket piece. And then glue it right over the circle. And then just cut it out. So you don't have to punch it. So maybe you're not sure where your paper punch is or whatever. So you can just glue it that way, and then after it dries, you can then cut that out to make it. Or you can you just put some glue on the edges on the bottom, and then you can just set it right on top. Let me see if you can see that. Move it up this way. You can just see, I am in the picture. Just stick it right on top and then make sure, you know, just line it up. But it should come out pretty close to right for the bottom. It might be just a tiny bit big depending on how much of an overlap you did. I did more like 1/8 of an inch on that one versus the other one. So this one's a little bit taller and skinnier. This one came out really good for the 1/16 of an inch. And like I said, the other one you can do is, this one has the sticky stuff on the back. Okay. It. That's my question. So this one, what I'd recommend that you do is you actually kind of peel back just a little bit and snip it. So you can then do your overlap, and I didn't snip quite enough here. Let me snip it again. Now go ahead and do your brush where you shape it. And I like paintbrushes because they already have that narrower bottom and wider top, and it helps you with that shape. And this one, down here, actually bring it around and right onto itself. Right there. Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to take it out of there. Right about there. Yeah, and it is stiffer because it has the paper on it still for the double stick. It's a little trickier in its own way. But like I said, the advantage of this one is now when you're ready to do your tissue paper or crepe paper around it, you just peel that off, and that's already sticky and ready for it. You'll still have to, if you want 2 layers, which I tend to do, you'll still want to go ahead and stick it. So I found that to try to cut tissue paper or the crepe paper, it's kind of hard to do on your own. So what you can do is you can put the paper over just a plain piece of paper, just an embassy sheet from a trip, and you put your, and I found that just, you really want to stick with just one sheet of it. But since the one I used for my demo pieces, which actually, let me get my little demos, which you can see in the picture. Okay. So here is one of them. This one's, again, 2 layers, but it's all pink. See the tiny little green on at the bottom that I do, and the little flower up at the top. And then this one I did 2 colors. And I actually did it the opposite of what I was saying. So I actually have my purple underneath, and then I have my my pink over the top, and it still worked. And the green that you can see in there is just, I cut really, really tiny little slivers of green tissue paper and bunched it up and stuck it in the bottom. So similar to what you would do for like an Easter basket. Great. So then the ones I found that seemed to work best for me, because plus I also cannot seem to find my scallops anywhere. So I went with a wavy one. And the nice thing about the wavy one is when you do cut your strip, and sometimes with this type of scissors, you can only go part way and then you line up again to keep going. But it's not really a major problem with this, because that first part is probably enough for you, but I'll just cut the whole thing so we have a whole strip here. I cut it extra extra long because I do want to show you guys what you can do with that as well. But so then once you have your strip of paper, what you need is about 3 of these, but you'll have to check it on your own to see. And the easiest way to do that is check it against one of the patterns you're not using. So then you can decide how much do you need. So this one actually is a bigger one than I used. I'm going to go ahead and cut it again using the littler one. Because that looks like I'd only get 2, which that still works. You could do 2 of one and then 2 on another, and you'd have 4 going around it. But we're going to flip it this way and cut with a smaller one. Some more. So this is the one that I actually did use. And then again, we can check it against it. You'll see that you can fit 3. I'll come closer so you can see. But you can fit 3 of the petals basically on it. So then you'll want to cut it so that you have, you want to cut it close to that upper one so that you have that whole loop just in case, because you want it a little bit bigger than it needs to be. And then I'm going to go ahead and start with the one that I already have. Oh, see, that didn't actually stick. So we're going to go with the other one. We'll stick with just glue then. So hold one of these. And it is sticking out just a little bit past, so I'm going to just trim off all of the little excess of that little circle. And that was a paper punch. That was just your standard, you know, office paper punch to get that size. All right. So then you're going to want a little bit of glue, and I always like to start at the smooth part of it, of the basket. A little bit of glue. And then you're going to take your tissue and you're going to stick it down right there. And then, oops, and I stuck it down with it too far down. Let's go up some higher. Right? So I want to make sure those loop part, the petal parts, are above the side of the basket. And then from there, you just kind of touch. You don't do lots of glue. You just do little touches of glue, just so that you can hold it to the basket itself. And then you wrap around, and you might have to pull a little bit on the top part to make sure it spreads out, because you want the bottom to stick to it. And then I have a little bit that didn't stick down, so I'm just going to add a touch more glue on it. And then touch it closed. All right, so now I've got it wrapped around it, but it's just kind of sticking there. So now you kind of gently tug on, oops, and I actually have to wait till that part dries. So let me just get that to stay. And that the part that I'm having to make sure is where it glues to itself. Okay, so I'm going to start on a different area, and I'm just going to gently tug on the petals and pull them out and down a bit. And I'm still not waiting long enough on that one to dry. Now we've tugged and pulled, and you can also stick it with your thumb to help it out. Tugging, tugging. And then I'm gonna move that one area again, because it really needed a bit more time before I started that part. Ouch. Anyway, so you just want to make sure that they spread out around it. And I'm going to get the other one. I'll actually try my bigger one. Cut again. Always cut on the downwards, you know, the loop down, not on the loop up. Let's see how this works. Let me intermingle it. That looks like that should work. So this one I'm gonna have to pinch a little bit more. So we'll put our glue down at the bottom. And in the instructions, I also tell you you can go ahead and like put a little glue tack and put it like on a end of a paintbrush or a dowel. So you're doing this upside down instead, so you can hold it easier. I don't have any of that right now, so I'm gonna just hold it with my finger right now so I can just get that part fixed. But it does make it kind of easier for you if you can hold it onto something while you're wrapping stuff around. Okay. So a little bit of glue there and a little bit going up. I'm doing this one a little bit further left because I want those petals to overlap the other one. And I'm mostly doing the glue just on the bottom because that way I can pinch it a little and make sure I'm lining up the petals where I want them to be. Push, pinch, put in. To the other side. So I'm getting a little bit more of like a ruffle to it by using the bigger one and pinching it a bit more. And because again, I wasn't waiting long enough for anything to dry, my bottom of it just pushed out of the top. There we go. All right. Now we do have to put that one aside a little bit to let it go ahead and dry so I can start moving the petals out like you can see on this. You can see that the petals stick out. And that's just, again, tugging and pulling down a little bit on them. So what I'm going to do then is go ahead and move on to the wire. So if you do have some floral wire that you can use, you're just going to make a bit of a loop and then cut it. And you're just going to go ahead and glue that down inside your basket. And I'm going to do it in this other one that doesn't have anything painted on it. I mean, any tissue on the end. Excess of this. A bit of glue on the bottom, going up the side a little bit doesn't hurt. And then you're gonna glue that right down inside the basket. So no really specific amount of size. It depends on how far up you want it to go. That's a bit taller than I usually make them. Gonna pinch it, cut it off a little bit more. There we go. Cut it shorter. Right, so I got my little handle down in there. So that's using the wire. But I also gave you a pattern to go ahead and just cut out a paper one. And what you can do with that is you can even just use some of that same tissue paper. Or you can even paint it to make it the green. Cover it over and then cut it. Right, then we just got ourselves a nice little green handle, and you can color the other side too. You can leave that white, totally up to you. And again, this is about the same length as the other one I did, which is just a tad longer than I like them. But again, really depends on what the look that you want. I used to make these growing up, so I see if I can do anything with this one. Let's just move that out to a basket. Touch and glue on both sides of my little handle. Put the handle on or off the camera here. Go. Just throw your handle down in there. Place. All right, pretend I never even suggested doing that double stick on the outside. It just makes it too stiff. It does not want to stay together. Just do one more of these. And this is just, it's a nice, you know, stiff paper, but it's just paper. Um, it's not even cardstock, but you can also use a thin cardstock as well. Fresh shape going. Definitely curling it around so you get the shape. Starting to curl first is helpful for gluing this part. And does anybody have any questions of anything I've done so far? I mean, just unmute yourself and ask a question if you do. Great. Then put that one on a circle. Great. A little bit more glue on the outside of my handle here. And I'm still trying to do it too fast. Anyway, so here we have a basket with a paper handle instead. Right, go back to this one, which probably should be ready for us to start bending down our petals. And you just start bending out your petals. Piece back on here. And if you're not happy with one part of it when it goes on, then you can also just go ahead and you can add a leaf going up the side if you want as well. Sometimes, you know, just when you go to do the petal part, you're not 100% happy with one area. Just bending it all out there. Right, so then the next part is your little tiny flower. You can use just a leftover piece like this, or you can use scissors that are like tinier. This is a nice, really tiny scallop. It's hard to see. Straight so you can see a little tiny serrated edge. Let's grab a piece over here. I'll try it without it, because this is smaller, so you can actually, you don't need that extra paper behind it for cutting with those scissors. Now this would also work if what you were doing is trying to work in a smaller scale, but this is one of those things I'm really not sure about in a smaller scale because it is so small. So you're going to put a little bit of glue down on the bottom, and then you're going to twist it up. And you just start twisting it, bringing it in and twisting and twisting and twisting, pinching and twisting. because it doesn't really matter. It's not an actual flower. It's just, you're kind of imitating a flower. That looks pretty good. Sure, now these scissors don't want to work. Sit around just a little bit more. Let's make it that little teeny tiny flower. And then just kind of twist, just kind of roll it back and forth with between your like thumb and finger. So you make that the end part, well, it's on the flower side. So you can see how pointy and tiny the other part is. Pinch it like that. And then what you might want to do is do your painting first and then cut. So you're going to grab some paint. Grab it from the flower side, hold it up, and then I'm just going to add some paint down on that narrow part towards the end. Back up. Snip off the rest. Now you've got your tiny little flower to glue onto your stem. This one, which has a stem on it already. Touch of glue. And if you want to try to have the paint that you chose to be very similar to the color of the wire or tissue paper or paint that you use to make the other one. So it's kind of a big one, but I've seen them different sizes up on the top there. Kind of off to the side. There we go. And you get your little flower from the top. So that's pretty much it. Oh, let me show you the other part that I was talking about. Kind of fold. So you have a bunch all together. The tissue paper. And then on the side, the open side, you just start really tiny little snips. And then when you get a few of them, you can start, you just crumble them all up together to make your nice little big straw to go inside. Or you can also just take a little piece of tissue paper and wad it up and put it down in the bottom. And then you can put whatever kind of candies you want in there. I'm actually going to steal this one from this one. Steal the wire back out of this one. Stick it in this one. Because I want to do the last part of it. I brought it back on again. Put my flower back on. All right, and then the finishing touch that you can also do with it is you can take, especially some kind of really jaggedy kind of scissors, or even the ones like I had done to do the little flower. And you're going to cut a tiny little strip of green. And this is gonna need the paper. You then have a tiny jagged strip. See, but then you glue that around the bottom of it, so it has that little grassy or you know, the flower stem kind of look. There you go. Well, the one's just there. Okay. Just want to pull these out a little bit more again. When you work on it, they are going to come back in a bit, so you have to just pull out the old petals again. Petals, and there we go. It's a finished basket. So anyway, in your prizes for the 1-inch scale, you could also have these two little baskets. Any questions?
Okay, if there's no questions, I'm going to stop the recording.